Hello SGD, and first of all I would like to thank Nature TV Speakers Corner London for giving me permission to use this footage. Links of course will be in the description. So for instance, Ray tours Egypt Part 2 where he visits Heliopolis and Memphis, and especially the first half of the video being Heliopolis, and I'd like to look at the astronomy of Heliopolis being part of this series which I've been presenting. Again, big thank you to Ray for allowing me to use this video. Links in the description. The open air museum of Heliopolis being effectively the only part which has some sort of preservation. The rest of the former temple of Ra Atum of Heliopolis is effectively buried either under local development or the neighbouring parkland there, which has been turned into something of a rubbish dump. But I'd like to emphasize the fact that the Egyptian people of Cairo, need to get on with their lives. And so, for instance, I live in Sydney. If you go to Egypt or any part of the ancient Mediterranean, you can't kick a stone without hitting an archaeological site. And I think especially for people in the West should keep that in mind, that they need to get on with their lives. And so whether it's the High Aswan Dam or other places, they have their modern life to live. But let's look at this picture of Heliopolis taken, or a painting drawn some time ago, and there you can see that, well, the Giza pyramids off in the distance, but that obelisk there is of special importance, and that being the obelisk of roughly 2000 BC, Sesusret I. Very interesting, especially given the point that Heliopolis was a site, a key site for ancient astronomers. And given that there are previous videos in this series looking at the astronomy connections there too in regards to Heliopolis, but also the Great Pyramid, also you'll find in the other pyramids alignments of the pyramids to Heliopolis and the Temple of Ra Atum. So just a little bit to the left of the screen, where we would be, well actually where he is standing is on the ancient mound, the Ben on where the gods of the Ennead, Atum brought not only the gods of ancient Egypt of the Ennead into birth, but also to the mound of creation, which is described in the pyramid text, coffin text, Book of the Dead. So important to ancient Egyptians, and they did clearly record it over and over again. The archaeological evidence backs up this. It's clearly that you can maneuver it whatever way you want, but this is the point. But as a center of astronomy, and especially this obelisk, and it through weights and measures, especially geometry, astronomy, arithmetic, the quadrivium, we have a lovely connection. So as we saw, the obelisk height is 20.4 meters. Now the Old Kingdom Egyptian royal cubit, I could go into a little bit depth, but let's just call it, it's pi over 6 meters. I did a series on the pyramid measuring the cubits, even to variate. So the average length of the Egyptian royal cubit is pi over 6 meters, literally splitting hairs on the difference. So pi over 6 meters times 39 is 20.4204 meters. So within 2 centimeters of the quoted distance. Therefore, the obelisk here, the surviving obelisk, is 39 Old Kingdom Egyptian royal cubits high, and a cubit was divided into 7 palms or 28 fingers. Therefore, 39 cubits is 273 palms or 1092 fingers, and in regards to astronomy, this is such a lovely number, so lovely. So Heliopolis, a center of astronomy, a center of geometry, but the Temple of Ra Atum, the connections to the sun. So Ra, we know, which is connected, or the sun god, which is really, or Horus, connected to the rising sun, as where Atum, often connected to the scarab, is the god of the setting sun. And these are also very important connections which fit lovely into the symbolism and the set of measures as well. But Heliopolis, the obelisk here, and the connections to the sun, the earth and the moon, the keys of astronomy, the keys of metrology, and connected to geometry, geo, earth, metry, measure. So why are these numbers so important? Well, they're just beautiful numbers. Okay, let's assume that this, along with the other parts of this series, it's all pure coincidence. Well, let's look at the beauty of the coincidence. Let's put the coincidence aside and let's say, by coincidence, what do we have to learn? What's so beautiful about it in regards to Sun, Earth and Moon? Well, let's begin. The Moon is 27.3% or 0.273% the size of the Earth. 273 palms, 0.273 to 1 the size of the Earth. The Moon is 400 times larger than, the Sun is 400% larger or 400 times larger than the Moon, but the Moon is 400 times closer to the Earth than the Sun. That's how we get the solar eclipse. That's why the Moon perfectly covers the Sun in the eclipse, because although it's 400 times smaller, it is 400 times closer. And if we multiply 400 by 0.273 or 27.3%, we get 109.2. 273 palm, 1,092 fingers is the height of the obelisk, surviving obelisk in Heliopolis. Why is that lovely? Because if we multiply the diameter of the Moon times 109.2, we get the distance from the Moon to the Earth. If we multiply the diameter of the Sun by 109.2, we get the distance from the Sun to the Earth. If we multiply the diameter of the Earth by 109.2, we get the diameter of the Sun. So the solar eclipse, the relationships of size, the relationships of distance, the relationships of size and relationships of distance all blend in together through the eclipse. Now it's curious that the circumference of the Moon so closely comes to 10,092 kilometers. Given the relationship of the cubit to the second to the meter, another extraordinary set of coincidence. Let's call it coincidence, but at the very least, these very small grouping of numbers describe so much. It is profound at the very least. Even if it is pure coincidence that the Egyptians knew, even if it is pure coincidence that the Sun, Earth and Moon relationships were set up this way, it is still a beautiful set of proportions that we should be, this is a beautiful, if we were taught this, in half an hour you can learn about the relationships of Sun, Earth and Moon in an astronomy lesson at school. Yet we're given a long string of numbers. And we come out even, after even secondary high school education. How many people can name the diameter of the Sun or the Earth or the Moon or the relationships between them? So at the very least, if this is a coincidence of measurements on the design of Egyptian obelisks, if this is a coincidence of measures of the solar system itself, at the very least, this is a beautiful system to memorize and learn about the relationships of these bodies, especially in regards to the Sun, Earth and Moon and the solar eclipse and the harmony of it. And that's why I believe certain elements are so not just resistant but aggressive towards, especially the 400 to 1, 100 to 4 relationship of the Sun to the Moon and the distance of the Moon to the Sun in relationship to the Earth. When it comes to the Sun, the Earth and the Moon, there are some very peculiar, so harmonious, such beautiful relationships between them that it really brings up some questions, and the question of why these particular proportions and harmonies are, let's just say, not promoted. I wouldn't say suppressed, let's be careful with our words, but they're definitely not promoted by the presenters, by the people who are put forward by the major media companies to be the representatives of official truth. And it's curious that things like the year, the synodic month, the sidereal month have such lovely harmonies, and they are unspoken. In some cases, in the instance of Brian Cox, are quite aggressive to the harmony of the solar eclipse, and I could present evidence in regards to that. Aggressive would be the term. Now, for instance, the synodic month or the full moon cycle is 29.53 days between full moons. Multiply the diameter of the Earth by 29.53. You also describe the distance from the Earth to the Moon as the diameter of the Moon times 109.2 is the distance from the Moon to the Earth. Such lovely things going on. I'll drop a load of links in the description explaining some curious, especially in Albrecht Dürer and this very curious esoteric Hermetic period and his pentagram and why I believe he intentionally made it incorrect to pass on information. Also, the Great Pyramid, a textbook in stone 273, how so many ancient sites, more have it than they do not, have this peculiar number of 273, as in the obelisk of Sesusret in Heliopolis is 273 palms high. Links, of course, yes, many links in the description. Whether coincidence or not, at the very least, it is a beautiful system for memorizing things, and with a short education on these, we can memorize so much, and it's very curious to me that they're not included in the formal education system. With that, I hope you enjoyed. Links in the description, and have a good one.